welcome back to Demigod Debut. I'm Mal, baby Annabeth defender and longtime Percy Jackson fan.
And I'm Julie, Percy Jackson newbie, and Luke understander.
Okay.
But not sympathizer, that's too strong. Or apologist is way too strong. I'm going with understander.
Understander is good. I would say that I'm a Luke understander.
Yeah.
I have empathy for him.
Mm-hmm.
However. I love this short story. I think this is my favorite of the short stories. Because, what did we read? What is it called? Oh, God. Yes, this is a podcast this week that is about Julie reading the Diary of Luke Castellan for the first time. Man, we've been gone for so long, I'm like, I don't know how to introduce this podcast.
It's been a while, yeah.
Anyway, my favorite of the short stories, I think. I don't know, any opening thoughts before I jump into my silly summary?
I was just, when I pulled this up, and I was like, I'm so ready to psychoanalyze Luke here. Very excited. So I'm ready to dive in.
Incredible. So, first, Luke opens up here by saying he doesn't know if he's going to keep up with this diary, but he promised some old man he would try, and after what happened today, he owes him. Great, sure. He also says his hands are shaking as he writes, and he's got a few hours before the girls get up, so he's going to write down what happened so maybe he can move past it.
The girls.
Sorry,
that's adorable.
So, we start with a goat. As all great stories do. Thalia is apparently convinced that this goat is a sign from her father, and anytime they get close to it, it vanishes and shows up further away, like it's leading them somewhere. I'm a little bit with Luke here, because he does not want to follow said goat. I feel like any sort of supernatural animal, I am leaving it alone. I will not be following. Would you be following the goat?
No, goats are smelly. Sorry. If it was a baby goat, yes. Because baby goats are adorable. However, big goat? No, thank you.
No. Yeah. I also, more on this later, but I did go on a very long internet rabbit hole about this goat. And so many times it was described as being horrifying looking, so
not doing it.
Would not be following the goat.
No.
But they do, however. I guess thank goodness they follow the goat, because they follow the goat to Richmond, and we all know who's from Richmond. And Luke kind of looks around at all the normal houses, and I'm going to read a little bit here because it's so sad. He says, I imagined all the normal families living in those cozy houses. I wondered what it would be like to have a home, to know where my next meal was coming from, and not have to worry about getting eaten by monsters every day. I'd run away when I was only 9, 5 long years ago. I barely remembered what it was like to sleep in a real bed.
He's a kid. I'm sorry. I know he does really terrible things later on. However, having this as, your formative, basis of your childhood into puberty and everything is,
I know,
it has to have a horrific effect on your development.
He was a feral child living on the streets from the age of 9 to 14. That's 4th grade to 8th grade. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But also, you know what this kind of reminds me of? Him looking at the houses and thinking about what it would be like to live there. It reminds me of Percy when he went to Luke's childhood home and was what would it be like to grow up in this place with a yard and this beautiful house. And I don't know, I thought that was kind of funny and interesting, because there's a lot of times in this that Luke kind of sounds like Percy. Some of that is probably just because they are both written by the same person, they just that's what Rick Riordan sounds like when he writes. But I also think you can look at it as proof that they are so similar, and they are two sides of the same coin, and they both could have ended up being each other and been on entirely different paths if certain things had gone differently. And that's just that's wild. All right, so back to our goat. Thalia explains that the goat is, this is a name, Amalthea, I think.
I'm going with that, and I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to be that goat.
That goat, the goat. And she is one of her dad's sacred animals. She also says that Amalthea tends to lead her to good things, like how she led her out of Los Angeles and to Luke, which is good. Thalia decides she's going to try to talk to the goat. Luke's kind of I don't want to do that, but I'm fine with whatever Thalia wants. They end up following the goat to a statue of Robert E. Lee.
Classic.
Luke says he doesn't know much about history, but he's pretty sure he's some general who lost a war. And I'm just saying, maybe if Luke would have learned some more history, he himself could have avoided becoming a general who lost a war. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, burn.
History is important, kids.
Mhm.
In other horrifying news, they get close to the goat, and Luke notices she's got some like ancient Greek tattoos labeling her udders with their corresponding liquids. So there's like nectar, milk, water, Pepsi, Diet Mountain Dew, and then there's also ice somehow.
Horrifying.
Much to unpack there. Like, nectar and water, sure. This is a godly goat, I guess. But then the others, you kind of start to lose me. And, like, milk probably shouldn't be as horrifying as it is, because, like, that is what you would expect to come from a goat. But
Right.
when you throw in the sodas, then I'm, like, picturing milk coming out of, like, a traditional soda fountain. And that's,
Gross.
yeah, that's terrible.
Oh, it would go bad. Oh, gross.
Yeah.
Gross.
And, like, the soda options are also just weird because Pepsi and Diet Mountain Dew? Is this a Taco Bell? Like, we couldn't get Coke products?
Also, just random diet Mountain Dew, not
Right!
like full sugar Mountain Dew? Like, what are we doing here?
No, if you're gonna do Mountain Dew, it's
Watching our calories? Like,
you gotta do full calorie Mountain Dew.
yeah, I want the sugar.
I've never had Diet Mountain Dew, but something about, like, Mountain Dew just feels like a potion that would have, like, magic properties, and then I feel like you add diet to it, and it's just, like,
Ruins it.
shouldn't exist.
Where's my Baja Blast? One of these should be a Baja Blast udder.
Yes. And on that train of thinking, if you had a goat that had 5 liquids of your choice, what would you choose?
This is just what I drink on a normal basis. Celsius, or I've recently gotten to Alani's.
Ooh. Do you have a specific flavor?
The pink slushy Alani,
Ooh, okay.
delicious. Tastes like a pink starburst. And the Fuji apple Celsius. Black coffee.
That makes sense.
Spearmint tea.
Ooh.
How many udders do I get?
That's 3, you get 5.
Okay. Oh gosh. Espresso martini. I want that all in one.
That's a good one.
And then last one. Oh gosh. I'm like, what else do I drink? Like pineapple juice.
Ooh. Those are good. We only have one sort of overlap, and it's not the same flavor. Because mine would be Diet Dr. Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
I would do some sort of iced latte situation.
Love.
Lemon lime Gatorade. Grapefruit sparkling water.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have like a brand allegiance, but like I love a Spendrift. And then I would do a grape Celsius.
Mm.
I love grape. Another just silly detail, I don't know how actually important it is, but Luke's current weapon is a golf club because the sword he used got melted in acid. Great.
Do we have a backstory on that at all?
No.
Okay, I literally wrote down, how did Luke's sword get in acid? Am I forgetting something?
No.
It's a win for me, because I'm usually forgetting something.
Yeah, you were like, shoot, should I know about that? No,
Yeah.
you should not. It's no. No. In fact, this story actually does not provide us with all that much new information
Mm-hmm.
because it's just kind of a continuation of them meeting Annabeth, and we already knew that happened.
Right.
So, really we're not really getting a new interaction.
Mm-hmm.
We're just getting like an extension of an interaction we already knew about. So, I don't know. It's interesting. Oh, we also get some more lore on the goat here.
Love goat lore.
Love goat lore. Zeus's mother hid him so he wouldn't be eaten by Kronos, and so this goat kind of raised him. And this is where my internet rabbit hole comes in. Because Luke says something about, like, despite Thalia saying she trusts this goat, he's thinking of another story, but he doesn't say what it is. And I couldn't figure out what he was referencing, but so I was like looking for anything, but I don't know. This goat was kind of strange.
Strange.
So in some versions of the story of Zeus's upbringing, Amalthea she's not even a goat at all. She's just a nymph who raises raises Zeus on Luke, Zeus. They're surprisingly similar names.
Mm-hmm. It's the vowel sounds.
Yeah. So Amalthea is just she's a nymph and she's feeding the baby with goat milk. And then at some point kind of down the line, they just sort of morphed together and it was like, oh, he was being raised by a goat. And then there's also a second story in which one of the goat's horns is either broken off or accidentally in an accident broken off. I don't know. But it becomes a cornucopia, which is interesting because there's another cornucopia origin story in Greek mythology, which involves like Hercules and another name, Achilles?
Okay.
Achilles? I don't. Achelous. Achilles?
I'm going with you, baby.
But yeah, he's a river god with big horns, and he and Hercules are after the same woman, and so they fight, and Hercules breaks off one of his horns, and that becomes the first cornucopia. That's the myth that I knew about the cornucopia, so when I looked up this goat and it was like, cornucopia, I was like, interesting.
Hmm.
But also, it was saying that, like, those were two separate stories. Like, they weren't actually tied together until, like, later. And then in some versions of the story, like, Zeus apparently broke off her horn and made a cornucopia. I don't know. It was like, there's just a lot of different stories that seem to evolve separately and like intertwine, which is interesting, but also makes like the research side of things difficult, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, the more Rick writes, the more we get these sort of like mythological deep cuts that are sort of impossible to get a straight answer about. But it's interesting at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I just want to shout out the line that Luke says. He says, "The compliment warmed me like a cup of hot chocolate. I'm a sucker that way. Thalia can flash those blue eyes, give me one kind word, and she can get me to do pretty much whatever."
Down bad.
Down bad. Like, we talk a lot about Percy being a wife guy, but we gotta recognize that Luke was out here doing it first.
Mm-hmm.
But also, we can't give him too much credit because I guarantee she flashed those blue eyes at him during the Titan's Curse, and he still decided to become Kronos, and a true wife guy would never.
Fake wife guy.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, his wife did get turned into a tree, so that
right.
was a lot to
But
handle.
so, like, it's like the story has wife guy origins, you know, because he started down this path because his wife got turned into a tree.
Mm-hmm.
But then he got so deep in the, like, revenge part that even when the wife was back, he was no longer a true wife guy.
Mm-hmm.
You hate to see it.
Hate to see it.
Yeah.
He was corrupt.
Also, I wrote that down and I can't even remember what the compliment she gave him was that made him say that. I was just so excited to write down that particular quote. Because I was like, I love a man who's down bad. What is the compliment that she gave him? Yada-da-da-da. Let's see. Oh, the compliment she gave was she says that Amalthea leads her to good things. The last time she appeared, she led me to you. And then he melts like a cup of hot
Mm-hmm.
chocolate. Yeah. Anyway, so we've been led to a creepy old house. Again, I would not be going into the creepy old house.
Hell no.
But they, however, knock, and Thalia then asks Luke to, quote, do his thing, that thing being picking the lock, which is an ability he has because of his dad, and he is not happy about this. In fact, he says about his father, he's stolen things like, oh, Apollo's cattle, women, good ideas, wallets, my mom's sanity, my chance at a decent life. Sorry, did that sound bitter?
The daddy issues are on full display. Full display.
The daddy issues are crazy. And the difference in the way that like Luke talks about his father versus Thalia is so fascinating because they have very similar stories with moms who kind of lost it and like that resulted in their running away from home and also like knowing what we know about their fathers. Like, it's funny that Thalia is the one being like, this is my dad's goat, and it's leading me to good things. Whereas Luke is like, screw my father and everything to do with him. But like, we canonically know that Hermes cares about Luke a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we've like never seen Zeus show any real affection towards Thalia other than turning her into a tree, which was like a weird choice.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the way that he can't feel the love that his father has for him. Whereas, like, Thalia, I guess, either can or is, like, making it up, you know?
She chooses to see the better.
She chooses to believe that her dad. Because, I mean, Zeus cares about her. Zeus sucks. And,
Yeah. He's just loose. You know, there's no changing him.
yeah, everyone has parent issues. I do also think you have to consider how long Luke was on his own because He says he ran away at 9, which, 5 years ago from now, and he was by himself for years before he ran into Thalia. Thalia says that Amalthea led her to Luke like the night she ran away. She's like, "She led me out of Los Angeles and to you."
Mm-hmm.
And based on lore that we are given later, which is this is not a spoiler but Thalia says later that she ran away at around 9 or 10. So that would give Luke at least 2 years on his own before he ran into Thalia.
And he was really on his own before that.
Right. That is true.
So, he's been
Yeah,
isolated for a long time
for sure.
with a lot of resentment towards
Yeah.
his father.
But I also wonder how alone Thalia was, Because her mom had a different situation, but, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now.
No, no.
We'll go on that eventually. Okay, anyway, so we picked the lock to the creepy house. And as soon as we go in, the door locks behind them and they cannot leave, of course. And then the curtains turn into oily sludge monsters that kind of try to eat them.
Gross.
Horrifying.
Hated it.
They then hear a voice calling to them to come upstairs, and then they hear that same voice coming from the halls around them, which is so creepy. And ultimately, then they have no choice but to go upstairs. Honestly, this whole thing inside this house is like a horror movie, and I am obsessed with it. So, upstairs, they find an old man, and his name is Halcyon Green, or Hal. He's a son of Apollo who was born with the curse of seeing the future. He was warned not to tell anyone what he saw, but he warned a girl that she was going to die and saved her life. And now he's forced to wear the skin of Python as a reminder that he is not an oracle. And his voice was taken away, and he's guarded by creatures with another name, Lucrote? They're these big monsters that eat demigods, obviously. And basically, they use his voice to lure demigods in as a reminder to Hal that his voice will only lead people to their doom.
Crazy. That's so cruel.
That is so sick and twisted. But I kind of love it in the most, horrifying way. This would make a great horror movie. Luke and Thalia are the final girl of this horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that when they come in, Luke's like, "Oh, what are those monsters in the cage?" Only for Hal to reveal that, no, you're actually the ones in the cage and you've been lured here to die. That's so cinematic and so terrifying. Ugh.
I need it on the silver screen.
Right. And then the way that Luke talks about the suspense of just waiting around to die. This is crazy.
I love a good horror movie.
I do not. I enjoy horror. I cannot do horror movies. I'm I can read it. I can listen to a podcast. I do not want to see it.
I can't do gore. But supernatural stuff or jump scares or murder stuff, I can do as long as it's not gross. As soon as it starts getting messy, I'm like, ugh.
You're nope, too much for me. Yeah. Well, I've been listening to a lot of the Magnus Archives lately, which is great, would recommend. And I've learned some things about myself. I always knew that caves was a fear of mine.
Mm-hmm.
There was this one episode of this podcast where they were talking about this cave diver and these supernatural experiences that she had in this cave. And I was like, I'm going to have to turn this off because I'm going to start crying. My skin was crawling in a way that I have never before experienced. And I was like, this is not for me. This is not for me. Caves? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Whenever I see that one picture of that guy who got stuck in a cave face first or whatever,
oh my God.
I'm like, get this away from me. It's giving me claustrophobia just looking at it. Horrifying.
No, there was a period of time where my TikTok For You page was full of videos of cave divers and people who died in these tiny tunnels and caves.
No.
And every single time it was so upsetting, but every single time I watched the video.
I would have been like, nope, get this away from me. I started getting crazy things on my Twitter, from all these forbidden video accounts. And I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I don't want it.
No.
I know it. I'm not going to watch it. I'm immediately block. If this is someone getting in a fight or dying or something, I don't want to see it. But that has been popping up on my Twitter and I'm like, stop. What are you doing?
Go away.
Where are my pictures of Sabrina Carpenter and my baseball? That's all I want.
Twitter is a hellscape now.
It really is.
Mine. The podcast's Twitter account is
It's yours, let's be
full.
real.
Like, I had to stop using it because it was just full of, like, right-wing
Oh
stuff,
my
and I
god.
was like, "What part of this Percy Jackson podcast Twitter account makes you think that I want to see right-wing nonsense
Like, it's
on my feed?"
a lesbian and a bisexual. Like, what do you really think our political orientation is here?
Like, I'm sorry, if you read these books and came out
Conservative?
a fan of Trump, I mean, I don't really wanna have a talk with you, but also, like, I'm fascinated to know how you arrived at that conclusion.
Right.
That's Anyway, so our horror movie. So our heroes, Luke and Thalia, are like, we will help you escape, and Hal shows them that, there's no way out. The monsters can't be killed by any metal known to a man or god. Basically, they'll be eaten by the monsters at sundown, and then Hal will eat whatever they have in their backpacks. And Luke says, basically, screw this. I'm not getting killed for 2 Snickers bars and a ham sandwich. Which I just think is very funny of him to think about what he's got in his backpack and be like, that's a stupid thing to die for.
Fair. Now, Mars bar. I do love a Mars bar. Somehow way better.
What's in a Mars bar?
It's like, I think it's similar to like a Milky Way, but I feel like the nougat is more chocolate.
Okay. I do like a Milky Way.
Yeah. But I think there's caramel in it still.
My favorite, 100 grand.
I don't know that I've ever had one of those. But like, I always see them and like, I would get them in like Halloween candy, but I was a big Snickers girl growing up. And Butterfinger. Do love a Butterfinger.
Ooh, yeah. 100 grand is just caramel,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got like little rice candies.
Okay. Is it like the crisped rice?
So it's basically like a crunch bar with caramel.
See, I don't love crunch bars. So I don't know if I would like it. You know what I can eat a whole bag of? The lemon Kit Kats that they have around Easter time. I love them.
Did you get some of those at Easter time?
I did, and I ate 2 bags of them.
Incredible.
Not at the same time, but within probably 2 weeks of each other, I ate 2 bags. Because I was just eat 2 at a time every time I would grab them. I'm like, I'm just going to have 2.
Yeah.
And then that would turn into like 10 a day.
I mean, it's fine. Easter candy.
But they're so good.
If they're Jesus's
It's
candies,
Easter.
they don't
It's not
count.
religion.
Christmas candy and Easter candy.
Exactly. Halloween candy doesn't count either.
Right, yeah.
Because that's like a pagan holiday.
We respect all religions, so
yeah,
any candy for any religion is fine. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what are we?
Yeah, what are we talking about?
We were talking about Luke's Snickers bars.
Yeah.
So then Thalia tells Hal to send the monsters away. Hal says there's no point because any escape attempt has been done before, so it's like they can't really have a private conversation that the monsters aren't going to know about. But, ultimately the point is that the monsters are creepy. So Hal ends up sending them away, and he plans to, like, type on a computer if he needs to talk.
Can I say just the horseshoe teeth thing?
Oh, horrifying.
Horrifying.
No, I can't picture these monsters in my head, and I don't want to.
I'm thinking of like dentures that look like horseshoes, and it's freaking me out.
See, that's the fun of like reading or like listening to horror stuff. If my brain cannot conjure the image, it's less scary.
That's fair.
But like if you make me look at that, then I have to know what that looks like, and I don't want to.
It's so fair.
Okay, yeah. So he's gonna type on a computer to talk because the monsters are gonna take his voice with him, which that's also, I don't know that I could have a conversation with someone if their voice was coming from a monster nearby. Ooh. They also have a bunch of books to look at. They've got the internet, but they don't really know what to do with them. They don't really know where to start.
I gotta get a year of when this is taking place so I know what kind of internet we're talking.
See, that's the thing. Okay, so the timeline. This is when the timeline starts to get a little screwy, when you get into this second book series. Because originally, Rick's books were kind of coming out about one a year, and they were taking about a year in between books. And so it was kind of like, you were like, okay, Percy was 12 in 2005. He was born in 1993. Great. And you just like went with that. But then the books started taking place over shorter amounts of time. So then it's like, okay, is this existing now or is this existing in 2010? It's all very unclear. So You could say that this, like, if you're going with the original series' release dates, which is like what some people do, saying that the Lightning Thief starts in 2005, this would be about 2000
Okay.
because it would have been 5 years before that. However, if you're going with, because Rick is now trying to do this, like the books just sort of exist outside of time, but then also Rick likes to put references to pop culture
You put
things.
that Hillary Duff reference in there.
Yeah.
Like, we remember.
No, I know. It's like in the newer books, he's got references to like Lil Nas X, and it's like, okay,
No.
when did these books take place?
I'm sorry, you can't do that, Rick. I'm sorry. That one's too far. That's too recent.
Yeah.
You can't do that, buddy.
To me, I'm like, this is taking place in the 2000s to like the 2010s. And when you put the modern references in there, I'm like, I too old for these books now?
Yeah.
But anyway. Yeah, so if this is happening in 2000, what was Google like in 2000?
Right?
I don't remember.
Google's almost unusable now. Again. Like, with their
Yeah.
stupid AI crap on there now. But, like, there was a point where Google, like, you had to, like, scroll through a list to find, like, your most relevant results. Now, this is, like, when I first started using it, and I couldn't tell you when that was. But it was after, like, 2000. So I'm thinking, how easy was it for them to find this information?
Looking up the release date for this book. Okay, this book came out in 2012. Oh man. So this comes out more centrally in the second series than I thought. Interesting. I thought this came out after the first book had come out, but I guess it came out after the third one. No, it came out just before the third one. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. But I guarantee Rick was thinking of 2012 Google when he wrote this.
Yeah, it's 2012 Google. Fine.
Because why would you be thinking of 2000 Google?
2000 Google, I think, would pose a challenge. Now, again, I could be rewriting history then because I did not use Google in 2000 because I was a mere baby. However,
Right.
I'm not that old, okay?
Yeah.
To know what Google looked like in 2000. Thank you.
The internet doesn't really seem to lend very many results for them. Their results come from books, so perhaps we are dealing with early 2000s.
Yeah. Listen, Google had to grow into its monopoly status.
Right. And then they had to ruin it with AI, make it unusable.
Maybe they're trying to get out of the court ruling that says they were a monopoly, tank their own market share. Conspiracy theory time.
I'd believe it. All right, so they do end up explaining the whole goat thing to Hal. And Hal says, most demigods aren't following a goat. They come for the treasure. And it's something that's in a safe in his closet. He doesn't know what it is, but he can't open it. But you know who can? Luke. He doesn't want to, but he can't say no to Thalia. Because again, wife guy. There is the potential that opening this safe will set off a whole bunch of poison gas. But Luke is able to get it open without breaking the vial. And as a reward, he gets a kiss on the cheek from Thalia, which he says makes the risk worth it.
Him and Percy, kind of the same.
No, I know.
Like, come on.
Yeah, it's... Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is absolutely something Percy would say. Like, he'd be like... Doesn't he say at one point, like, just seeing Annabeth smile is, like, a good enough reward or something?
Yeah, something like that. Like,
he didn't even need the cheek kiss. Percy is 10 times the wife guy Luke will ever be. But also, it is kind of sad to watch Luke be a wife guy knowing what's about to happen, but it's fine. Okay, so in the safe, there's a bracelet, and Thalia can't really figure out what to do with it, but Hal's very excited because Apollo apparently told him that his curse would end when the owner of that treasure claimed it. But they quickly realize that it's not some magic fix. Like, the monsters are still there, Hal still can't speak, we're still going to be eaten by the monsters in a few hours, and Luke even tries to consult Google and gets nothing. So then, Hal decides he's going to try to read their futures. He tells Thalia that she's destined to survive today, but soon is going to sacrifice herself for her friends. He predicts years of solitude, standing tall and still, alive but sleeping, says she'll change once and then change again. Her path will be sad and lonely, but someday she'll find her family again. Like, every bit of this is giving Tree. Like, this is the most clear prophecy of sorts I think we've ever gotten.
Yeah.
Yeah, but after he tells her she'll find her family again, she's like, well, I'm not going back to my mom. Hal says he doesn't that's not what he means. And that really rattles her. And Luke really doesn't know what to make of that because, as far as he knows, she's got no other family. But, like, there are so many options. I mean, there's this found family that they're making, there's godly family. Like, Percy and Nico are technically her cousins. And, you know, as far as we know, maybe she's got a long lost twin sister that her dad got in the divorce and she's going to meet at camp and then they're going to plot and scheme to get their parents back together. Little parent trap action.
Fanfic. I need it. I need it. I need it. I need it.
Honestly, not even with Thalia, like just with some like original character demigods, like to do a parent trap situation at Camp Half-Blood would be crazy.
It's so good. I would read that.
If someone knows of the fanfic, please send it to us.
Yeah. DMs are open.
The DMs are always open for whatever kind of nonsense you want to send me. There are some people that will send me like random reels and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. But thank you.
Like, thanks. It's an avocado.
Thanks. All right, so Luke tries to get a little more information from him, but all that ends up happening is they get back on the goat. Hal says that Zeus killed her and used her skin to make his shield Aegis. So those of us in the know could probably deduce at this point what the bracelet is. If you remember that is a thing that Thalia has. And then Hal reads Luke's future. He says he sees fire, and that will be the thing that helps them today. But he also sees a sacrifice, a choice, and a betrayal. Thalia doesn't want to hear this and kind of tries to fight Hal. She's like, take a swing, old man. And I was like, Thalia, calm down. Calm down.
Girl, breathe.
But, you know, Luke doesn't really make it past fire at the moment. He gets an idea and starts looking for a recipe to make Greek fire. They find all the ingredients in the stuff that the other demigods that came before them left behind when they were tragically eaten. And the last thing they're going to need is for Thalia to summon some lightning, which she doesn't really want to do because the last time she did it, she apparently almost killed Luke. Which is, again, another thing that we don't get more information on. And I would I want to know what happened to Luke's sword. I want to know what happened when she tried to summon lightning and almost killed Luke. Like, I would read a whole book on these two's adventures.
Yeah, I want more details.
Yeah, because right now, these children are just out here building a bomb. And that's... like, that's crazy.
Kind of badass.
Like, the homeless children from off the street came in and started building a bomb.
They found a copy of the Anarchist Cookbook, and they're now making a Molotov cocktail.
Basically, yeah. And then this also makes me wonder about the lore of Greek fire. Like, did camp know how to make Greek fire before they got there, or did they bring the recipe for Greek fire to camp?
Yeah.
You know? Because the Hephaestus cabin has Greek fire, like, in the series, but that's 5 years after this. So, like, I don't know. Maybe camp already had that recipe and it just wasn't necessarily available. But then how does Luke know what Greek fire is? I don't know. Anyway, that's not important. So, Thalia is, doing the final bits to make this bomb a bomb. And so Hal pulls Luke to the side, hands him his diary. He says it's got all his thoughts on the future, and he thinks it's going to help Luke. And he tells him to learn from his mistakes. Hal makes Luke promise he's going to keep up with the diary, and he gives him a bronze dagger that he says was a gift from the girl he saved. Hal says she promises that the dagger would always protect its owner. Excellent. The dagger. A lot of lore with that dagger.
So much lore.
And it's then that Luke realizes that Hal is not planning on making it out alive. And he confirms this by telling Luke that he's going to lure the monsters into the bathroom, and that will hopefully give them time to get out. Hal scribbles one last thing in the diary, just the word promise, and Luke says, yeah, I promise. This man does a lot of promising. Then Thalia manages to electrify the Greek fire, just as the bars start to rise, and they're out of time. Luke gets Thalia to give Hal the Greek fire. They hide in the closet while he lures the Lucrote, that's the last time I'm going to say that word, into the bathroom. Luke and Thalia then run. There's a massive explosion behind them, and they're just about to make it out when one of the monsters catches them. In that moment, the bracelet clicks for Luke, and he realizes what it is, and he asks Thalia, what's Zeus's shield called? And as soon as she says Aegis, the bracelet turns into her, trademark shield. And she uses that to get the monster off of Luke, and somehow, it's a little unclear, somehow they make it out of the building, as it explodes. Love. Convenient for all involved. They then run back to the Robert E. Lee statue, because of course they do. Luke thinks about how brave Hal had been to go out fighting. He also thinks about what he might have seen in Luke's future that scared him so much. Luke thinks about his promise to Hal, and kind of thinks to himself, I'll learn from your mistakes. If the gods ever treat me that badly, I'll fight back. Which doesn't really feel like the message that Hal was wanting you to get. But okay, Luke.
No, not really the lesson, was it?
But, you know, he's a very angry kid.
He has a right to be angry, okay?
He does. But...
However, he needed therapy. He would have been fine if we got him into social services.
Yeah. Really? I mean, okay, listen. It is not a girl's responsibility to fix a broken boy. It is not. But,
however,
I think what Luke needed was for Thalia to survive.
Yeah, that was probably like the last straw moment.
That was the point of no return for him. That was the thing that, you know, sent him down this path. Because, like, that was his wife.
That was his wife. What was he supposed to do?
When you take the wife from the wife guy, what are you left with?
Some crazy guy who has obsessive traits. I don't know. Daddy issues on top of that.
Because, like, I guarantee if Percy lost Annabeth, he would be burning stuff down.
Unhinged.
We got a little taste of it in the Titan's Curse when she was gone. She wasn't even dead then. I mean, I guess Thalia wasn't either, but Luke didn't know that.
Right.
Like, the crash out is valid. However...
It's not great.
No. Because I could guarantee you... And I guess we don't know what Luke's crash out was initially. Because, again, we are seeing Luke 5 years after this happened. And so, because I feel like, you know, Percy's crash out would immediately go into, like, how do I get Annabeth back? But then I think if that didn't work, then he would go to... I'm gonna burn everything down.
Yeah, I want revenge.
And so I think, you know, we may have missed Luke's I gotta get Thalia back, and just came in for his I'm gonna burn it all down. But then also, this is a lesson in the importance of having more than one person in your life who is like your
rock
support system. Because, like, even if Percy were to lose Annabeth, like, he still has his mom. Even if he loses his mom, he still has Annabeth. He still has Grover. He's still, like, he's got these people that Luke doesn't have, because the closest person to Luke after he lost Thalia was Annabeth, who was 7. So...
She was a baby.
She was such a baby. Speaking of the baby, we're almost there. Alright, so they make it back to their old camp in Richmond. And is this the same camp that they stay in the Sea of Monsters? I think it might be. Because I know they stay in one of their old camp things. So they're there, and Luke gets a feeling that someone is nearby, and so they go down an alley, and they find baby Annabeth trying to attack them with a hammer. As he's calming her down, he notes several things. 1, that she seems even younger than he was when he ran away. 2, he can feel her ribs through her pajamas, so she probably hasn't eaten in a while. And 3, she has these startling gray eyes that are beautiful and intelligent, and he knows that she'll be powerful if she survives. I love her so much. She's everything to me.
I just have to tell you, whenever they describe baby Annabeth, I can't stop thinking of, like, a young Sabrina Carpenter.
Oh.
Like, that's who I'm picturing, like, big doe eyes, like, long blonde hair. That's who I'm picturing in my head.
She's just a baby. I appreciate how we get all of the classic lines here, you know, like the lines that live rent-free in my head ever since we got this scene in The Last Olympian, you know, like when he tells her that, like, they could use a fighter like her, and knives are only for the bravest and the fastest fighters, and, like, you have to be pretty clever, and I bet you're pretty clever.
Also, I have a couple lines that I was like, are you kidding me?
Let's hear 'em.
I swore to myself I would never let this girl come to harm. Liar.
No, I have it all caps. He swears he won't let her come to harm. He absolutely does not do that. He hurts her so much.
And then, I promise I'm not going to fail you like our families did us. Liar!
No, that one always gets me in The Last Olympian. And also now, every time I hear it, I'm not going to fail you like our families failed us. Yes, you are!
It's the one thing you definitely do.
Ugh. I mean, I guess in the end, no, but also yes.
Very similar to Hal, like sacrificing himself.
Yep.
So maybe he did learn the right lesson after all.
Maybe he did, you're right.
It took a long time.
Listen.
A lot of fuck-ups on the way there.
It took 9 years, but he did it. He did it.
The slow learner. He quit school.
This is why education is important. Like, when you run
Exactly.
away and drop out of school at 9,
You might almost win the world.
you might just try to end the world. And, like, that's the other difference between Percy and Luke. Percy keeps going to school.
He knows the importance of education.
Yeah. One line that really got me is when he, like, looks at Annabeth and is like, this feels like a second chance after losing Hal, and so I'm gonna give her this dagger because fate is giving us a second chance to save another little girl. I was like, okay, so, like, I'm weeping.
She's just so precious as a baby.
Ugh.
I can't. Like,
She's so cute. Because, like, when we first meet her, she's so annoying.
yeah.
I love her so much, but she would be having lunch with her teachers. Like,
Yeah.
she's that kid, and I love her so very dearly, but she's a lot. And when you meet her at 7, like, she's just precious. All right, so last little bit, we get a little narrator Luke at the end. He says he's on guard duty. He's writing in the diary and watching Thalia and Annabeth sleep. He says if he's going to be, quote unquote, the dad of this group, he needs to be worthy of their trust. He might only be 14, but he needs to keep his new family together, which is very much not what he does. He also thinks about his mom and how he'll be having words with his dad if he ever meets him. And he plans to write more in the diary, but doesn't think anyone will ever read it. And that's kind of about it. I would be very interested to read more of Luke's diary entries, especially after what happens. Because I would imagine that he would stop writing in the diary pretty shortly after Thalia is treed. Yeah. It's a verb.
I love that. Yeah, I could see the angstiness is like, I'm not writing this stupid thing anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you think the short story is as banger as I do? Because
I enjoyed it. Very humanizing for Luke.
Yeah.
And again, I think sympathizer is too strong of a word, but I do like learning kind of like the backstory to our like so-called villains. I think it's really interesting. And the system failed Luke on all levels.
It did.
We could have saved him with a robust social safety net. I'm just saying. It's my opinion.
And that's our thesis for the episode.
The real villain is our like decrepit and decaying welfare state. Thanks, Ronald Reagan. He's the real villain.
It all comes back to Ronald Reagan. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I have any other final thoughts that can top that. So
that's all she wrote.
Yeah, so next up we got another little silly short story. Percy Jackson and the Staff of Hermes. That one's just fun. A little bit of joy. A lot of very exciting things to come. Stick around, because we will. I know what the people want. The people want the lost hero, and we will get there. It will happen. You're just gonna have to sit through me doing a bunch of other silly little things first.
It's summertime. We're being chill right now, okay? It's a hot girl summer, okay?
Right, and I cannot start a new book until it is officially summer.
I don't need homework right now. I want to be lying on a beach.
Yeah, we cannot start The Lost Hero, a book that canonically takes place in the winter, until it is summer.
Fair. Need the contrast, okay?
Yeah. I think we also did The Titan's Curse in the summer, so it's fine. It's on theme.
Yeah.
It's regular, it's normal.
Until next time.
Catch you on the flip side. I've never said that before in my life. I don't know why that just came out of my mouth. Hi, you can find us on social media at Demigod Debut Pod. You can also find the links to all of our socials in the episode description. If you enjoy consuming this podcast, please consider leaving us a rating or review wherever it is you are listening. See you next time. Bye!